So hello guys, welcome to another tutorial section. So what are we going to do today? We are developing a flow that's going to grab attachments that's uploaded in a SharePoint document library that was attached to a Dataverse table and linked to a model-driven app. In my previous article, my previous blog post, I showed you how we integrated document library into model-driven apps. To read that, kindly refer back to my previous blog post where I did a step-by-step guide on how to attach a SharePoint document library to a Dataverse table and link it to a model-driven app. Oh, where's my model-driven app? Oh, God. Okay, yeah, there it is. So this is what I'm trying to talk about. In my previous blog post, I explained how we configure this attachments tab using a SharePoint document library, thereby saving some space in our database file capacity. If you'd like to see that, please refer back to my article. I also leave a link in the description to refer back to how you can configure this attachment tab. Then now, what I'm doing today, in our previous article, you notice this is how SharePoint name the file path of any attachment that is uploaded. Any attachment that is uploaded using this model-driven app, the attachment that is uploaded will be saved in a SharePoint document library, just like we said in my previous blog post, whereby it's saved in our SharePoint document library. And here if I go to site contents, let me go to site. This is my SharePoint site, and if I go to site contents, you see it's a SharePoint document library. It's a document library. It's site contents. Let me go to site contents, and I go to this is a document library we said in my previous blog posts. See, this is a document library, and these are the folder parts of all those files. If you note the naming convention of this folder part, it picks the there's a column I have in my case table here. This is a model-driven app. You see, this is a case ID. It's a primary column in a Dataverse table. This primary column, it's an auto number column, which is a case ID. And this, if you look at this, if you check this is the ID of every record entered into that case table in Dataverse. This is the ID. But if you notice, this is not how Dataverse saved the ID of every. So don't worry, we are still going to get back into this. Now let's get right into it of how you can set up your own flow that picks up the file. I already set up the flow, but I'm going to give a step by step. I'm going to explain so that each time you attach a file, using model-driven app, and you needed to probably send that file in an approval email and send it to probably your HOD, your CEO, wherever in your organization to approve. So you might be thinking, how do I now grab this file that's attached from Dataverse to SharePoint document library and send it as an approval? Now, this is what you're going to do. When you go to your flow, you create a new automated cloud flow, and model-driven app interacts with Dataverse table for you to trigger. Now, your trigger will be when a row is added to a Dataverse table. Here, my change type is added, just like we said, and table name, which is from this model-driven app. The table name is cases. All right, so I select cases. The scope organization, all this is everyone knows about this, right? So cases, my table name, I'm going to select cases. I've already selected the scope organization. Now, next step. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You can see I added a compose action. What does this compose action do? If you notice in the naming convention of these files in SharePoint document library, this year's 1000. This is the case ID of every record that is established in Dataverse table. This is the case ID. It picks the case ID, just like I said in my previous blog post. I explained how to do this. In the case ID, it picks the case ID of that record and the and the record ID in that vast table to create the folder part of that file. Now, if I go to my case table in my solution here, this is my case table. Let's check this case 1000. Look at this is the record ID. Can you see 03 hyphen DS hyphen? But inside my SharePoint document library, the folder part, all is capitalized, right? You can see this 0315. This is it here. This is it here. 031523D. This is just a logic you can apply to grab that file that is attached to a specific to that new created record. All right. Now, how do you format this? How do you format this? How do you format this ID to match this capitalized one? Now, this is where you need to use a compose action here. I use a compose action. You add a new step after a row is added, you add a new step and click compose. All right, just like I did here, you can search for compose. So you just select compose. All right, that's it. So now after you select compose, you go to you add an expression instead of dynamic content. Use expression. So and your formula is going to be, let me just copy this. So let me just copy this. All right. So let me do this again. Now I add an expression. Let me paste this. Oh, sorry. I already have my formula here. Let me explain this formula. Now, if you look at it, to upper, what does that to upper mean? So you write to upper is an expression. To upper means to change all these small letters, all this lowercase to uppercase like this. That's the function of that expression. Means to upper. Then you need to remove, you see there is no any hyphen except this underscore. There are no hyphen here. You need to remove all this hyphen. You see all this hyphen? You need to remove it. Then what you're going to do, so I will leave the formula here in the description so you can just copy and paste. In the blog post, I will leave, there's a formula there you can just copy and paste. I also leave it in the description that you can copy and paste. So now to upper, you also use replace. All right, replace means remove all this hyphen. So we are still getting that. All right, so after that, then what do you want to replace? Let me add another. Let me remove this first. Now, if you need to replace, what you're going to do is you now go to dynamic contents. All right, you want to get the record ID, which is this. This is my own record. Unique identifier. You go when a row is added. This is to get the record ID. All this ID, this is it here. So from dynamic content is cases. All right. You select cases. Okay. Now you replace. What do you want to replace? I want to add apostrophe. I want to replace this, or I want to replace this to empty. All right, meaning remove all those and change it to empty. All right, that's what that formula is going to be. That's what the meaning of the formula. To upper, replace, you select it from the dynamic content, this trigger output, the case ID of this, replace this hyphen to just empty ones, then you close the bracket. All right, twice. So you close for replace and you also close for to upper. So this is the formula. Then you click on add. All right, so then you click on add. I already added it here, but I'm going to remove this. So once you've done that, then you had a delay. You had another action which is called delay. You might notice why a delay. The reason why I added a delay is because in Dataverse, for you to upload any attachment in Dataverse, you need to first save the record first before this attachment tab shows. It is after you save the record, then you over to attachment, then upload you are still going to see it in practice, then upload the attachment before you can. So because once a record is attached, the flow is going to, once a record is created, the flow triggers. And if there are no attachments, and if there are no attachments in the record yet, the flow might fail. That's why you can add a delay, probably 1 minute or 2 minutes, depending on the number of attachments you want to upload. So I just make the count to just 1 minute. So at least within that 1 minute, the user will have uploaded the files and they save it again. So that's just the logic behind it. Because once it's triggered and there are no files, it might fail. So I already delay for like 1 minute. Okay, so once the delay takes, so within that delay, the user will have uploaded the files and all that. So the next action you had is get folder metadata using path, because the file is saved in a SharePoint document library, just like I said, SharePoint document library. Then you click another action, which is get folder metadata using path. So you select your site address, which is this is my own SharePoint site address, which is this SharePoint site address. Now, folder path. This is where it gets tricky again. Your folder path, if you notice, the document library, when we connected our document library to our database table, we already said this folder path ourselves, which is the logical name of of a database table. All this it was explained in my previous blog post where I explained how to attach document library, like I said. So when I go to site contents, here, site contents, and you see this is a document library. This case is a logical name of my database table, which is this cases. Now, how do you set this folder path? You use to set the folder path slash math cases underscore, which is where did I get this from? Can come to your table here in database. Then you go to tools, then you copy the logical name. Once you get the logical name, all right. Let me clear all this so I can do it again. Once you get the logical name, this is my logical name, the folder path, right? Slash my logical name, slash, then you insert from dynamic content, which is my case ID. My case ID, which is a column, my primary column. It depends on the name of the primary column you use in your own table. My own primary column is my case ID, which is an auto number column. It's auto-generated number, because that's how SharePoint name those folder paths. So it picks the case ID. It picks the case ID and the ID of the record. So that's the logical. That's how you want to pick the file dynamically. Not that you don't want to be editing it again. So that's the logic behind it. So slash the case, my logical name, slash I pick from dynamic contents, which is my primary column, case ID, then underscore. From this, you see this underscore, then the record ID. That so here it's not going to be I'll pick from dynamic content as well. So it's going to be the output of my compose. You remember we've already removed the hyphen and changed to uppercase, then the output for it to locate the newly created record. It's going to locate the case ID and the newly created record to correlate with the naming convention of the document of the folder path in SharePoint document library. All right. So now this your table logical name slash, all right, table logical name slash your primary column underscore, then the output of the compose action to capitalize everything, to capitalize the record ID. So once you are done with that, then the next step is get file properties only. That's a SharePoint connector again. Get files property only. Then you select your site address again, your library name. So you select your library, which is cases. My own here is called cases. That's my library name. You select cases. Then now, this is where it gets interesting again. Let me close this again so you can understand this. Let me close this. So once you select the library name, you go to advanced parameter and choose limit entries to folder, because you want to pick the file that's attached to the newly created record. All right, you click on limit entries to folder, then to select the folder, just like we did, slash my logical name, my table logical name, slash step from dynamic contents, which is my primary column, slash my primary column, which is this. As removing the flash, as I say flash, sorry, the slash for me, so slash. Okay, let me insert from dynamic contents, case ID underscore, then from the compose action that changes all the record to capital to lower uppercase, the output. That to locate the specified folder, the newly created record, limit entries to a folder. All right, this is it. So once you are done with that, now we are going to initialize a variable because the file is going to come in a JSON array. If just like I said, if you notice in my previous article where I explained how to attach a file, how to get a file from Microsoft, for how I explained how files are being the output of a file in Power Automate is always in a JSON array. So first you need to initialize a variable. You pick another action and you can search and you search for, let me do it again. Pick another action, then you search for variable. All right, you search for variable, you search for, then you say, then you select initialize variable. All right, initialize variable. Then under initialize variable, you name it, let's name it, you name it attachment of type array. The type is going to be array, then you leave the value empty for now. Then your next action, you use an apply to each action. And why they use an apply to each action is because you might attach more than one file. So you need to look through all those files. So I may have like 3, 4, or 5 files. So you need to grab all those 5 files at once and send it as an attachment in an approval mail. All right. So you select a control. You can just comment this under control. Then you select apply to each. All right, this is it. Apply to each to look through all those files. Then inside the apply to each, you select another action which is called get file content, or using a SharePoint connector. Get file contents. Now we need to get the file of that content. All right, you need to get the file. Remember, inside the apply to each step, inside, not outside, inside. You need to get the file content. Now we need to get a file. We've gotten the folder path and we've gotten the file properties. Now let's get the file contents. So to get the file content, because you might have more than one file, that's why we need to use and apply to each loop, so that you look through all those files if there are more than one files. All right, now get file content. Now you specify your site address, which in my own case, this is my own site address. Now in this file identifier, if I over to this, you see my expression I use there. You won't pick this from dynamic content. You need to use an expression. All right, you need to use an expression. I think I have an expression here. Let me just copy this. Oh, sorry, it's not even here. Sorry. So you need to, there's an expression here. You won't select it from dynamic content. You select effect, insert an expression, and inside the expression you write items. All right, you see items. I think I'm right. Items, open brackets, then your apply to each action. Apply underscore to underscore each. Sorry. Use an apply to each. Okay, let me go back. I'm sorry, I don't know I don't know the formula. So yes, apply to each. Then inside that, use question mark. All right, just to grab the identifier of all the files. All right. So then you might want to say, okay, why don't I pick this from dynamic content, like picking it from dynamic content and go to apply to each. If you use current item, it's going to show current item, and you might get error because you might have more than one file. All right, you might get error. It's not really grabbing the exact file, because inside this apply to each, there are many things inside. It's either you can have the file name, file, so that's why this is a current item. Okay, so now let me go back to my expression. Okay, items, okay, in brackets, then apply underscore to underscore each. Okay, now this one is apply to each. Let me just copy this for now. Apply to each. This is the name of this control. You might, if you rename yours, it might be another name. But I did not rename mine. It's just applied to it. If I renamed, let me say, if I rename this to files now, but I'm not going to rename it. If I rename this to probably files, so which means in my expression, it's not going to be applied to it. It's going to be files. All right. So let me just change it to apply to each. Just to, okay, just let, so apply to each. All right. So now let me go back to the expression. Let me paste this back, and inside the expression, what's then question mark. Okay. Then what else? Okay. Now curly braces, this box. I don't even know what they call this, but you already know what I'm talking about. Sorry. Then you add apostrophe again. Now JSON array, inside the JSON, then you use identifier. All right, identifier, which means inside that apply to which loop, it grabs just the identifier of that file. All right, the identifier of that file. You see this identifier. All right, identifier. Okay, so when I add this, okay, but if I save this news, it's going to change to this. Just look. So once you add that, okay, so you can see apply to each, then identifier. Okay, okay. Let me close this. So you will see once I save and publish, it's going to change to this, like grabbing from the SharePoint. Okay, I think I'm right? Is my formula correct? Just want to be sure there are no mistakes. Okay, I want to be sure. Okay, I think there are no mistakes, right? Okay, yes. So when I close this, so I think that's all. So inside this applies to each again, we are going to append an array, because remember we've initialized a variable of empty array, so we need to append it. So you are going to append an array here. So what do we do here? You just come here, search for append. Let me search for append. You see append an array. This is it. Append to array variable. All right. So once you append, it's going to come from, it's going to tell you to specify the name. Then you pick from the drop down from the name of this initialized variable is called attachment. All right. So then you go to an append an array, you select attachment, and in your expression, you use a JSON format to grab the file inside to append into that array. So the JSON format, it curly braces name. All right, then the file name, you pick this. Okay, let me close this and do it again. Okay, now name, just like you see here, name. Let me clear this name. Then you pick from the dynamic contents name, pick from dynamic contents. Now under this get file properties, click on select more. You select file name with extension. You see, get that here now. Where is it? File name with extension. Where is it? Where is it? File name with extension. Where is it? Yeah, this is it. File name. That's the name of that file. File name with extension. Then comma. Then come to contents, because this is what it's the approval flow expect contents. Then the content select from dynamic content, which is get file content action. Get file contents. From get file content, you see file content, the content of the file. All right, then that's it. That's that for apply to. Then outside the apply to each, you add another action, start and wait for approval. Start and wait for an approval as another action outside the apply to each, not inside, because if you put this inside, it's going to say if you have more than one file, those files will be sending one after the other, and the person might say if you have like 4 files in the, if you have 4 attachments, so there will be 4 emails the person will receive. Whoever is going to approve will receive 4 emails separately. But after they apply to each loop, they add and start and wait for an approval. Then you can use, depending on your business scenario, approve, or then just first to respond. Then title, I use case approval. Then assign to, I use my email as the assigned to who is going to receive the approval. Then details of the approval, a new case has been filed waiting for your approval. Then you move to, let me close this. Then you move down to advanced parameters, then you select attachments. All right. Then inside this attachment, let me click inside this attachment, when you first select attachment, this is where it's going to be. Let me go again. Attachments. When you select attachment, then you switch to input entire array. All right. So you switch this, then select from dynamic contents your variable, which is attachment, that you rename your initialized variable, which is this attachment. All right. So that we append it. If you remember that. So once you select that, then we are good to go. Then we save, and publish. Now let me publish this. Now let's test our flow. If it's going to trigger, let's test our flow. So test manually, test. Now let me perform the action now. Okay, yeah, this is my model driven app is open already. So now let me create a new record. Full name, let me select this is a lookup column. Email, let me just select this. Phone number, select. Then this is just a demo. Okay, status pending. Now you see, I can't attach any attachments now because I haven't saved this record. I need to first save this first before I can apply. This record needs to be created so that SharePoint can grab the case ID and the record ID to create a folder path. All right, just like to create a folder path like this. Now, so once I save this, see, once now the flow has already been triggered, but it's waiting, it's in delay mode. I'm sure of that. So now let me attach an attachment now. Choose file. Let me select this. No. Okay. I want to attach two files. Use this. Attach another one again. My community contributor that I received from Microsoft Power Platform Community. Okay. No. Then okay. Now I've attached two files. All right. Then I save and close. So now this is the file that was just created. And if I go to my SharePoint document library, this library, as can see, it has been created already. This is the ID and this is the record ID. Now let me go to my flow. If my flow, I should have received. Let me go to my flow. Can you see it's already triggered? Now it's in delay mode. Can you see, this is why it's always advisable to add a delay for the user to add the files he or she needs to upload. So when it's in delay mode, so can you see now it's now waiting for me to approve. Now let me go to my email. I should receive an email address very soon. I should receive an email address now. I should receive an still waiting. Oh God. Why is this taking forever? How many times do I want to refresh? Oh God. Okay, now yes. Can you see? This is it. I kind of took it. Now this is the notification. Can you see this is the new email I just can you see the two attachments I uploaded? My October 1st and my community contributor badge. This was used as a test. Then I can approve. Can you see? These two files, they are saved inside my SharePoint document library. Look at how I grab those files and send them as an approval email. Then either your HOD, your CEO, or wherever can just approve either from Teams or wherever. But I'm using my email address here. Then I submit. Then that's just it. And my flow triggered successfully. And I see everything triggered successfully. So this is how you can grab files from document library that you attach to model driven app. That you attach to a model driven app there, which is this that I attach. So that is how you can grab. So this is the attachment that was uploaded when this record was created. Can you see? So that's how you can grab file that you save in document library via model driven app and send it as an approval email. So I hope I hope this helps someone in their development journey, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Thank you.